tell us your story.
Hi, my name is Jana Leroux. I'm 22 years old and I'm a junior at Biola University this year. I'm also a member of the track and cross country team. Growing up in South Africa, I've always loved doing all kind of sport, but it wasn't until I was 15 that I really fell in love with the sport of running. Um, this was a form of escape, and soon it became more than just a sport. Um, I found my identity in it, and apart from that, I didn't really know who I was. I'm really grateful for the sport still. It was something that um, gave me a lot of hope for the future and presented me with a lot of opportunities. One of them being to be able to come to the United States and pursue my running dreams, and also be part of something bigger than that, than myself, and that being a family on a track and cross country team. And so I packed my bags, everything that I had, and I hopped in a plane. The next morning I was in LAX, just to find out that I have a fractured hip and I was not able to run at Biola University, which was definitely a shock to the system. I think I've always been chasing all these running dreams, and whether that's not running, maybe academically related too. And I always wanted to reach mountaintop with everything that I did, but then I catch myself disappointed with the view. And so, being in California about a year and a half ago, I just didn't understand what the Lord was doing in my life. It was really rough because my team left on the training camp. I was sitting with a fractured hip. I was in a new area and a new country and a new state, and I didn't know anyone. And to be honest, I didn't even know myself. But it was in that week that my mom asked me to pray to the Lord and ask Him what He wants from me in the season, and pray that He will reveal that to me and use me for His kingdom and not my own. And so the fall of 2021 was definitely a semester where I just had to learn how to surrender. And I totally believe that God can do way more with your surrender than you can do with your control. And so I just surrendered my own timeline and my habits and my gifts and my talents. And just every day I surrendered to the Lord and I asked Him to use it for His kingdom. And for the first time, I was able to laugh out loud. I was able to jump around and just be me. I think I lost something that I thought that was bringing me joy, but in that time, I found myself the happiest I've ever been, and that was just awesome. I learned to be a teammate, and I was always somebody that, oh my goodness, I'm racing, and so how do I warm up? What do I eat? How do I pack my bags? And for the first time, I was able to pray for a teammate and just be an encouragement, and that made me truly, truly happy.
First time I got to know Jana, it was the fall of 2021. She transferred from Oklahoma Baptist, and I was in my house. She had come to my house with all of her bags and was sleeping on her couch, and she walked into my room and just started talking to me. I had no idea who she was, and I just thought her name was Jana. So when she finally said her name, I was like, makes sense. But from that moment on, we just clicked.
It was last fall, or 2 falls ago, so the fall of 2021, during our cross-country season. I was dealing with an injury, and she was also injured. So that meant that we were both, neither of us were running, but we were still doing things like showing up to practice. And we just kind of started talking because she's super talkative and really good at introducing herself to people. So would very enthusiastically come up to me and be like, hey Connor, how are you doing? I'm like, I'm good. And then that just got us to talking and growing a lot closer. And from there it just kind of progressed more and more to getting to know her a lot more.
Jana was totally different. When I think of a great athlete, I think of just all in their athletics and all that, just really determined. But I think, when I got to know Jana that first semester, I could see that she was strong in her faith. And she just had like a very like kind heart, and it was just so nice to I guess share that same like careness with someone.
Well, me and Jana, I remember we actually came to Biola at the same time, and I remember I was a freshman and she was a transfer student, and I remember we were kind of all standing in this weird awkward huddle outside of the gym, and the first thing I thought when I met her, I knew she was a transfer, and like she was a lot older than me. I was like, wow, she seems cool, like she seems a lot older than me, like this girl seems cool, like I want to get to know her, and like her accent was cool, and I was just like, I want to get to know this girl. And we just kind of slowly got to know each other. I learned that she's really talkative in like the best way, and like conversation's so easy with her. And so I think we kind of just started to get to know each other over the course of cross country, and especially through her injuries and stuff, and her stress fracture that she had during cross country last season, just like helping her through that, like just all the suffering that she's been through has just been kind of continuing like this really like quick, deep, intimate relationship that we had grown kind of right off the bat, which I'm really thankful for, like God using those trials in her life for her to create deep relationships with lots of people. So that's kind of how I got to know her.
But then when January rolled around, I was super excited to start the new semester, and I had a lot of goals, and I really wanted to run fast on the track, but unfortunately that just didn't happen for me. That was really rough. I just don't know what was going on in my body, and I just felt nobody knew, and that made it even more frustrating at the time. Every time I ran a lap around the track, I felt like I was about to get a heart attack. My legs weren't moving as it should. I thought I had compartment syndrome. My whole spring of 2022, I was in and out the doctor's office every other week. A teammate would take me, and in that time of uncertainty, there was one constant, and that was God. And I think it was a time of me just sitting at the Lord's feet, and I didn't know how to pray or what to ask for, but I just humbled myself, and I was just sitting at his feet, and in that I found contentment, and I found rest, and it's just like this peace that like goes without understanding, but it was a peace that I needed, and I didn't know I needed it until I had it. I think in the uncertainty of not knowing what was going on in my body, but also like not being able to run with the rest of my team and living up to expectations with scholarship, it was rough at times. My sister got engaged, and she's a year and a half older than me, and so missing out on that was also very difficult, and I didn't really know what my purpose was, as I felt like I wasn't running, and I felt that was my calling, and so if I'm not doing that, then what am I doing? I remember there was a week that I just reached out to my advisor and I said, hey, can we meet next week? I think I need to change my major. I'm really struggling. I just want to talk to you. And so over that weekend, before I had met with her the Monday, I went on this church camp with my church and one of my teammates, and that weekend I had $36 in my bank account. And so my friend asked me to Venmo her money, and being from South Africa, I don't have an American bank account, and so I couldn't Venmo her the money, and I knew I was going to get paid the week after. And so I said, well, can I just like Venmo you the money next week, or get the cash back from you when I go to the store? And she says, yeah, like sure, whatever. And so we drove back from the camp, and there was a Walmart, and she pulled over and she said, well, actually I need a few groceries and want to go to the restroom. Do you just want to get the money now? And obviously me not wanting to tell her, oh, I just have $36, I was like, of course, like I'll do that. And so we gathered some groceries from Walmart, and I had to spend $20 to get the $10 cash back. And so I knew I was gonna have $6 going into this next week, but somehow I was like, well, it's fine, Lord will provide. And so I was standing ready to check out, and the guy in front of me at Walmart, he turns around and he said, do you mind if I buy your groceries for you today? And I said, no, it's fine. And he said, no, but like, I want to. And I said, I have to get my French gas back. The guy responded, gave me $20, pays my groceries, and left me with these words: the Lord is gonna continue providing for you if you're gonna be obedient. And so I knew this was going to be important in my story, where it fit in. I wasn't sure at the time. But the next morning, I took the story and I went to my advisor and I said, hey, I know I need to change my major. I don't know what I want to do or where I'm heading, but this is my Walmart story. Please help me. And she responded by telling me that she felt that I'm called for ministry and missionary work. And she knows that I have a heart for nations. I didn't necessarily felt that that was me, because I felt like, well, my dad's not a pastor. Like, I'm not praying as all these Biola students are, and I just don't think that's me. I knew that my heart was in track, and everything else was just like on the side. But she encouraged me to pray for it, and she said, well, like, you can always pray. Like, the Lord can use you as a vessel. He can do anything with you, just with a willing heart. Like, you can go places. And so the week after was missions conference at our school, and we sang the song I'll Go. And I remember all through April and May last year, I was praying. I said, Lord, like, I'll go. Like, I want to lay my life down. I want to walk into the purpose that you have for me. Please give me a willing heart and use me as a vessel for your kingdom. And so early May last year, I went home, and about a month later, mid-June, I saw a cardiologist in South Africa, and he told me that there's nothing wrong with my heart. And in that moment, I just start crying. I told him that there is something wrong with my heart. Like, he has to tell me something is wrong with my heart. I need to come back to Biola and be healthy and running. And I'm just really tired of not knowing what's wrong if I know something is. And so he asked if he could test me for some autoimmune diseases. And so he asked me to lift my arm. And like, at the moment, I told him that I'm unable to do that because I hurt my arm in the gym. And so he was like, well, no problem. I'll just give you a cortisone shot. And so we made an appointment the next day for an x-ray. And I found out with that my humerus and my shoulder was completely divided, not attached at all. And they called my dad asking what I had done. Because if an old lady fell with osteoporosis, her arm wouldn't break in that way. And so, very concerned, the doctor admitted me the next Monday to get a surgery done on my shoulder as soon as possible. And at that time, I just told my parents, drop in the hospital, you can leave me there, like, it's just an arm surgery, that's what happened to me, the Lord is going to use it, it's okay. And so I was laying in the hospital the Monday evening, and they asked me if they could do an MRI to see why the bone had broke that easily. And so me thinking that it was just like normal protocol, that is what was supposed to be happening, I went into that MRI to find out the next morning that I have 1.4% chance on surviving ewing sarcoma and bone cancer. And so in that moment, my whole world turned around, but I had so much peace because I felt like I was living in an answered prayer. If I was praying to the Lord that he will use me as a vessel, what if that was it? And so I wanted to be resting in the assurance that it was going to be used for his kingdom, and therefore I have to be strong, courageous, and brave in fighting through it over the next 9 months. The doctor asked me to sign consent within the next 24 hours, and me not knowing what chemo involved, that was a really hard season. I lost all my healthy cells, and I had a couple of hours to decide whether I was going to freeze my egg cells or not, because at the end of this chemo, I wouldn't have any left. And as difficult as that was, I cling to the verse that God is the God of all flesh, and therefore, if we serve the same God as Sarah and Abraham and Moses, then like, why would I be any different? And so I cling to that hope that in some miraculous way, the Lord will be able to use me in some sort of motherly role, whether that's through my own children, or whether that's through adoption, whether that's through missionary work. And maybe I'm called to be a mother of nations, and I don't want to miss out on what the Lord has in store for me and how much joy that's going to bring if I'm so fixated on what I think that I deserve. And so, yeah, I started chemo a week later, and within 12 days, I lost all my hair, and it was rough. I had chemo every other week for a week at a time, and I didn't see any family members. My parents dropped me on Monday and picked me up the following Sunday, and I was just battling on worship music and and gallons of chemo at a time. I remember walking out of that hospital by the end of the week, and I just saw the light outside, and I was like, whoa, like, it's something that I definitely took for granted. And I think the less you have, the more you appreciate. And I think my whole perspective changed. As I feel like the Lord was stripping so much away from me at the time, yet like he was just providing so much more, and like his presence in my life increased to that extent that I just felt like the Lord is my shepherd, and I really, really don't lack anything. And so as hard as it was awesome. But when my scan came back clean in December, the doctor told me that he wanted me to continue chemo until March, where the original plan was to end in January. And so that was really tough, because I felt like I had my school and my friends and my team and running and America waiting for me in January, and that was a reality that's not gonna happen anymore. And I was really sad, and I felt like the world, my people, my friends, my family, my parents, everyone wanted me to continue this chemo. But in that month of December, I felt the Lord was clearly telling me, hey, you don't trust me enough to keep you healthy, and therefore you want to trust the chemo. On the 8th, I woke up to Instagram on the next morning, and I just saw all my teammates being back at school, and Biola admissions, welcome back. And that was really rough, because I felt I was battling this thing for 9 months to be there in January. When that didn't happen, I just felt like lost. And so I remember being in my room, excluded from my family for 3 days, and really sad about the fact that I'm not pursuing my dreams back at in America. And my dad came in my room on the Wednesday, and he said, hey, if you want to trust God with this and leave, I would support you. And so I remember being sassy and said, well, maybe I will. And so Thursday morning, I reached out to my advisor, and I told her, hey, like, is there any possibility that I can maybe come back to school? And she said that she doesn't know how it happened, but somehow I'm still enrolled in classes, I have housing, and if I have the desire to, I can hop on a plane the next morning. And so that's what I did. I booked my ticket, and within 24 hours, I was back on the plane, heading to Biola to start the next season live. It was awesome. I surprised my teammates, and every day was an absolute blessing. Just so good to be back, and the Lord has been so faithful in providing just like a lot of opportunities to share and just to celebrate this gift of life.
Actually, when I first got to know Jana, I was a senior in high school, and she was one of the girls who came with the coach of the cross-country track team to pick me up from the airport. And so I think the first thing I noticed about her when she started talking was, whoa, this girl has the coolest accent ever. And then she explained how she was from South Africa. And then I didn't get to know her super well on the trip. But this year, in January, when she came back to school, I just remember having meals with her and just thinking about how incredible her personality is and her faith is, and just how she's glorifying God in everything that she does. It was really cool.
I first got to know Jana when I was injured. It was like the second week of the semester this year, just a couple months ago. And she came and said hi to everybody, and I didn't know that she knew me. Like I had known of her through other people and through Brandon, but then she came up, she was like, oh my gosh, hi Luke. And I was like, the heck? And she had just like been following the things that I had posted on social media and on Snapchat. And that was just like really insane to me that she knew me. And then that day and the subsequent weeks, we would bike next to each other. And I would just get to talk to her one-on-one for like an hour. And then we'd both go and eat breakfast in the caf together for like an hour. And that was just insane to me, talking to her. Just seeing her faith and seeing how confident she was in what she was doing. I just could see how many people she could impact. Because I knew that she had impacted the cross-country team already, and I could just like, oh my gosh, like, I need to share this. Like, people need to know about this girl, because she's just insane, and her faith is wild, and I've never seen anything like it. And I was just like, I felt so at peace and so such joy in her presence because of how much I could just, the Lord and his joy flowed out of her.
I felt like every day was a blessing because every day was a gift, and like if I get to go to practice, then that's a bigger blessing, and if I get to run, that's great, but like it was not something that I felt I was entitled to. And so it was just awesome, you know, like you walk to the cafeteria or you walk to coffee shop and you buy coffee and it's like, oh my goodness, this is a coffee, but it's so easy to just buy the coffee and go by your day. But once you really appreciate the little things in life, I think like the big things will come, but there's so much more joy in the little. And so it was just awesome how the Lord has like softened my heart towards that and towards my friends, and just like I wanted to fill my days with people and conversations and not things. And so yeah, just a big blessing to be back on the team and be healthy and be running. I ran up to 40 miles and like but then about a month ago I stopped about 10 times in a 6-mile run, and so that was really rough, and I knew that something was up, and I knew that I had to honor my body and act on it. And so I had a conversation with my coach where he asked me to just not look at my watch and just run around the track. And in that moment, he stopped me and he said, hey, like, is your arm okay? It looks like it's not moving. And I said, hey, coach, it's dead. It's not supposed to be moving. But I definitely thought about it a lot throughout that day. And I didn't want the enemy to get hold of my thoughts, but I definitely wanted to be wise of it. And so I saw our athletic trainer, and as she was massaging it, she said that it feels broken. This is a 365-day circle because a year ago I didn't have a story. A year ago, like, I didn't know God's word. A year ago I wasn't praying as much as I should. A year ago I didn't know what suffering was like, and therefore I didn't felt I was called to go share with those who are suffering. But the Lord really did answer my prayer. Like, he did make me a vessel, and like he does want to use me for his kingdom. And so I rejoice in that answered prayer. And then 2 hours later, I went to my x-ray for this arm and heard that it was broken. And the doctor left me with the words, your arm is broken, and I can tell you now that it is cancer, but I can also tell you that it is not. So do not overthink it, but pray about it. And then we'll see you for an MRI next Monday. And so within that next 4 days, the Lord has been leading me and providing a lot of peace and answers, which I wouldn't exchange for anything in this world. And so I guess I'll call this season the way that Lord has been answering my prayers. And so coming back from that x-ray, we had missions conference that evening again, and there was this lady from Turkey who lost her husband as a missionary, and she was talking about forgiveness and how through his death she's now able to forgive his murderer and go share that with other people. And so she was just sharing for like 5 minutes, and then there was Francis Chen, and as he got up the stage, he said, well, I know there's like PowerPoint, and I'm so sorry for the person that is in charge of it, but I feel like there's someone in this room who needs to hear this, that we pray that we want to be used by God, and we want to go share our stories, and we want to be missionaries, and we want to write books, and we want to live in cool hotels and travel the world and have 7 kids, and you know, we want all of that, and that is our ministry. And we look at this lady and we sympathize with her, we feel sorry for her, but we don't want to walk that road that she's walking. And so in that moment, I knew that I was a Turkish lady, and I knew that the Lord is going to use me, and that's going to be my ministry, and I have to be willing to suffer for Christ's sake, because he can make the rocks cry out if he wanted. He chose me. And so what a privilege it is to suffer for Christ. And in that moment, I just surrendered the outcome, and I asked the Lord to use it for his kingdom. And I thanked him for the opportunity that I have to minister to others through my brokenness, because I knew that people is going to be healed through that. And so as I stepped into the next week of missions conference, my prayers changed. I did not pray for healing, but I prayed for peace and a lot of it. And I prayed for obedience to walk in his ways and to make him known where I go, and to use the story for his kingdom and not my own. And I think through this conference, I came to realize that a lot of the times we pray that, hey, Lord, like, give me this story because I want to go share. And I think the Lord gave me a story, so I had the desire to learn more about His story so I could go ultimately share His story. And what a blessing that has been. And so by the end of the week, we had a worship evening and there was like an overflow. And so we went into this building where there was like about like 70 students. And there was a call for prayer, and I raised my hand. And so there was like 3 people praying for me, which two were my teammates. And so they knew that I needed prayer for the scans that was coming up the next morning. But one of these people that prayed for me didn't know me. And so I shared that, well, like, I had cancer, I might have cancer tomorrow, I don't know. And so she was like, well, do you want to just share with everyone? And so I got up there and I shared with everyone. And I was just saying, like, hey, like, I have a really big desire that I just want to go out to the nations and share. And I just want to feel like I have a heart for ministry. But I'm so afraid because I feel like I want to go out on mission trips, but I don't know if I'm going to be alive next year to do that. And so I just want the Lord to like kind of guide my step and move my feet where He wants it to move. And also just pray for healing. And so as we gathered, there was 2 girls that prayed, and they both prayed for healing. And we almost just like stopped praying, but then there was this one guy, and he came in and he said, guys, like, we didn't pray for the second request. And so he's praying that I would have a lot of peace and that I would be obedient in my call, and then I would just like trust the Lord and know that He has a perfect plan. And so leaving that room that evening, I just knew that I was going to be healed. I was like, well, like, Lord, like, we all prayed and like you were present and it was so powerful and it was great. So like, surely I'm healed. And then the next day I went for my MRI and I wasn't. The doctor called me 2 hours later and he said, hey, Jana, I'm sorry, we only did this MRI on your arm, but you do have a tumor again, and it is cancer and it is aggressive, and I'm sorry, but I don't know how long you have left.
It was, for me, it was pretty surreal. I think, obviously, given the circumstances leading up to the diagnosis, it was definitely not outside of what I thought was maybe going to happen. But yeah, just like seeing her in that moment and hearing that news, again, for me selfishly, that's hard for me to hear because she's one of my best friends in the world, and it's hard for me to think about her having to go through that again and then maybe not having her around at some point. But it was just hard seeing her take that in for the first time again too. And I know that was, I mean, anybody that knows her knows, like I was talking about, that she just has this overwhelming sense of joy and peace with all of this. But in that moment, I feel like it was pretty clear to see that was a lot for her to take in. But even then, she surrendered it so quickly to the Lord, and like within like 30 minutes was comforting all of the people that she was with, instead of like being instead of just being like bogged down by it, which says so much about her character and her faith.
Man, I didn't know what to think. And I just saw it like when she came back and she just shook her head at me. I was kind of in shock, honestly, because I was really expectant after all the prayer that we had, the amount of time we'd spent praying over her and just how hopeful she was. She believed. She does believe still, like, and we all have believed that God can heal her, like, we know. And we know He has the ability to, and we really believed that He would, and He didn't. And I was really hopeful for that, almost expectant, which I do regret to be expectant of God in that way. But I realized that in that moment I was really angry with God. I was in shock, and this friend that I've just grown to love so much over this past almost 2 years now, one of my best friends, I didn't know what to think.
Yeah, it was, I don't want to cry because she is so trusting of what God has for her. But I remember when she called, and I think we both kind of knew it was coming. Just the symptoms that she had were very similar to last year, and I think I prayed a lot about being prepared for that, but it kind of just feels like you can't really be prepared. And she called when she was at a worship night, and it was pretty brief. She was around a lot of people, and I think she just wanted to update me before the next day, so that I was kind of on the same page as her. And I wanted to talk and be there for her through it. I was at home, but she was surrounded by so many great people who were praying for her, and she was in the middle of worship, and I think like that's kind of what was her ideal place to be, I think, finding out.
I remember crying in the moment because I felt like I let people around me down, because we all prayed and we all wanted that. It wasn't just me. It wasn't a selfish request. So Lord, like, why did you not hear me? And then as I'm praying and as I'm thinking, like, well, he did. He really quickly answered that second request. And if he did, then this is my calling. And this is where I have to be obedient, and this is where I have to walk in that, and this is not a time for me to sit in my room and feel sorry for myself, because what a blessing it is to already walk in an answered prayer, and to know that he has a perfect plan, and to know that he's going to provide peace, and then to know that he's going to touch hearts through me. But then I have to continue having this burning desire to learn more about him, because I don't think you can never know enough. And so, yeah, that's my story in short. And I'm leaving in like 3 days to go home and get my scan done to see if my cancer had spread or it didn't spread. And if it's localized, I pray to just get an amputation as soon as possible and return back to school without an arm. And see how the Lord's going to use that, because I think that would be pretty awesome. And if not, then he has a different plan. And I think a week ago I was very against chemo, because I want to honor my body as a temple, and I don't really want to go through that suffering again. But I do know that I'm singing the song, oh God, I'll do anything and I'll give you everything. And if I can sing that, then I feel like I have to live up to it. And if chemo is just one thing that I feel like I cannot do, because like I don't want to do that, I'll do anything except that, then that's maybe what I need to do. And so I'm praying that the Lord will give me openness of heart, that I will be I'll be willing to do whatever he calls me to do. And like maybe he wants to touch someone in a hospital through my story. And so I'm excited and expectant to see how he's going to use this trial again. And I think something that I remind myself of daily is what we don't have now, we don't need now. Because if I needed my health, then the Lord would have provided it, but he didn't. And so therefore he's sufficient. And if God's our daily bread, then we don't need the peanut butter or the jam or the cheese or whatever that might be, because he is enough, and we have all we need because we have him. And I think that's something that I hope to cling to within the next 9 months, because I know like my body, my flesh might fail, but I think like through him I will be able to survive, because living can mean 5 million different things. Because I'm sitting here and I'm dying, but I'm the most alive I've ever been. And so I'm so thankful for how he's using this, because he's healer even though I'm not healed. I think we can so easily become so focused on the one thing that you want to go right, whether that's running a super fast time or getting perfect grades, or like being in that relationship that you desire, and then you miss everything else the Lord's doing, because he's not God in the good things. He's God in all the little things that's going on around you. And I think that's important to cling to, because that's been providing a lot of joy and hope and peace for me, and so I hope that you cling to that too. And yeah, I just want to thank everyone for their prayers and their support, and just allowing me to feel that I'm not alone in this, because I feel I have a family, and because we're brothers and sisters in Christ. This just makes it a lot easier. So thank you so much. And I love you guys, and I hope to see you guys soon.
Hey Jana, thank you so much for the opportunity to make this video. It has been an incredible joy, and you can only tell your story. As best as I'll try to do this, you are ultimately going to be the one that impacts lives with this. And what's been so incredible for me to see throughout this whole process is the impact and legacy you're going to make is going to go beyond just your story. You touch hearts and change lives beyond your cancer, with your joy, with your humor, with your humility, with your love and your life. And to show you that, I recorded one last part of this video just for you.
I'm sorry, Jana, for this one. But there was during track season last year, at the Long Beach meet, there's this guy on the Long Beach team. Hopefully he never sees this, or hopefully he does. But Jana, sorry, I laugh about it all the time. Me and her, we still talk about it. But she like sees this guy that she thinks is cute. And she's like, "That's my husband." And we're like joking, like, and whenever we see him at track meets now, I'll like take a picture of him and be like, "Jana, it's your husband." Well, there was this one time we got to be in a Filmmaker music video, so that was pretty cool. And then afterwards, we were all going to In-N-Out, and everybody got the little In-N-Out hats, and she was so funny because she was making these really funny noises and just jumping around the parking lot, and it was just the most Jana moment that I've ever seen. And she was just jumping and dancing around, and it was just so sweet to see. Like, it might not seem funny to other people, but it was just such a fun moment to see her true character and joy and happiness, and yeah, so.
When she was back in South Africa getting treated for chemo, I would call her, FaceTime her like once a week, and we would just like talk for an hour or so. And I remember it was kind of right in the heat, or like right in the thick of it, when she was like in the middle of her chemo. It was after her surgery, which was really tough. And she was like, again, had every excuse in the world to just be totally down about everything and all these circumstances. And she just kept making bald jokes about herself. And I was sitting on the other end of the phone not knowing if I was allowed to laugh or not. But then she'd just keep making the jokes until I started laughing. And that was really funny, and that sticks out to me a lot because, yeah, I was not expecting that to happen after she was like, "This was the worst week ever. I can't believe I just had to have this surgery and go through this chemo." But hey, at least I might have hair again at some point in my life.
We crumble a lot, and a lot of times eat more than we should, and just do stuff. And we would just always joke about how full we were and having to unbutton our pants because it was too much. Little moments like that were just like funny to us in the moment, and we would crack up laughing, but probably nobody else found funny. And then the way that she would just joke about her wig.
Oh, you know when you're like really tired and all you really want to do is take your wig off? Yes.
So, yeah, a lot of little life moments that I think would kind of crack us up, but maybe were weird to other people.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, I remember when I first got to know Jana, I remember, trying to, like, get down her name. and I like didn't know if I was saying it correctly. And I just remember asking like Jana for the first time, like, Jana, like, how do you say your name? And she's like, Jana. And I'm like, Jana? And she's like, no, Jana. And so it was like this repeated process of going back and forth. And I'm like, I don't even know if I'm saying it right. I'm gonna just call her Jana or something. I'm like, dude, I don't even know. But I just remember her giving me like a hard time in those situations. And, there's other moments that I could like mention too, but I just remember that being like one of those moments where I got to see her humor. And that was just that moment or that instance like just brightened my day even more, you know, getting to just know her more.
It was the afternoon before she found out that her cancer scans came back. And as we were talking, I could tell that she kind of knew that they were going to come back positive. And so I saw her just briefly walk into class, and I don't normally see her during the day, I just see her in the morning. And she was just walking, and she said, I'm going to get an acai bowl because even though they're $8, I'm not going to need my money after I'm dead. And I was like, I just could not believe that she said that, but she said it with just complete joy and like wanting the earthly possessions that she saw were passing away, and she wanted to enjoy them while she could. And I just think that's a great mindset to have, to enjoy things through the Lord while you can and to find joy in that.
I think it's just shown me how putting value in worldly things is so unimportant, and making sure that I need to be prioritizing things that will actually last. She's taught me so much about where she's putting her peace, and she repeats so many times, to live as Christ and to die as gain. And so like how she's living her life and everything she's doing, she's pointing it to Christ. And it's taught me so much with how I really do need to surrender everything that I do to the Lord. And it's been so impactful to see how she's lived that out, and she is a testimony to that with her being alive, and how she's using her gifts to impact others. And you can just see Christ's joy, and like just the definition of the joy of the Lord being her strength in everything that she does. It's so beautiful.
I think the first thing I kind of started to learn from her wasn't even from when she was diagnosed with cancer, but when she was struggling through her stress fracture and then through problems with her shins, which was actually kind of coming from her having cancer that she didn't know at the time. I just noticed like how joyful she was in the midst of everything, in the midst of her stress fracture and her shin problems and not being able to run. And she loved running, and she still loves running. She hasn't been able to do it the way that she used to, but I just remember her coming into Biola, loving running so much, and just her trust for the Lord is like so incredible. And it just shows me what it truly looks like to trust the Lord in our sufferings. Not only that, but to be really content and just dwelling in whatever the Lord has for us.
One verse that reminded me of her is Romans 12:12. It says, rejoice in hope, suffer patiently, or patiently suffer, something like that, and persevere in prayer. And she just does all three of those things so well. And so it's really cool, I think, to scriptures that I read about suffering and prayer and joy. I think you read the words on the page and you kind of just have an imagination about what it looks like and how you're supposed to imitate that in your life, but to be able to see Jana do it kind of through the past year with everything that she's had going on has just been very like inspiring, and showed me how to be dependent on the Lord when I go through hard things, whether it's small or big, and to bring everything to Him and to really trust that He has a plan for good, even when it doesn't make sense.
I'd say it's impacted me in like, really defining hope. She, hearing that she's been like going through a lot of like chemotherapy and, having to go through it again, and seeing how she's, kind of like processing it. She's not really taking it like, oh, like this is going to be a hindrance to her life. Like she's, really trusting in God through it. And I think that could be a lesson to all of us, that whenever we face like trials of uncertainty, even like for Jana, you know, we're just reminded that, you know, in Christ's love, like there is hope, and trusting in him, like it might be, you know, very hard to do that, but I think she, you know, whenever I think of Jana, I think of hope, how she is to me, and kind of like taking it from like outside, like with the team, I could tell that she's like a beacon of hope to everybody, like all of our teammates. So, yeah.
I think that she has given me an entirely new view on joy, because I think that she's kind of reminded me that joy, especially in regards to our faith, or that when we have faith in Jesus, that joy isn't just a feeling of happiness, but it's this consistent hope that we do have in Jesus. And I see that a lot now after she's gotten her second diagnosis, and just the way that she continues to trust the Lord and like excitedly submit her life to him. And I mean, she she quotes Philippians 1:21 all the time, for me to live, or to me to live is Christ and to die is gain. And it's pretty cool because I feel like that's an easy thing to say, and I've never seen anybody actually live it out like her. And I think that that just kind of gives me a really, really, really cool framework for the freedom that we actually do have in the Lord, that goes beyond life or death. And yeah, it just kind of blows my mind every time I talk to her about it, because she just keeps reminding me over and over again that joy is something that's found in Christ and not in the things of this world.
The first thing that comes to mind is she means what she says. In all of her prayers, when she'll say, Lord, your will be done, she actually means it. When she says, Lord, send me out, I'm unashamed, I'll go to anything, she actually means that. And you can see that through what she's going through right now. And in the night before she found out, we were praying for her as a group, and we prayed. She said she had 2 requests. The first one was obviously that God would heal her, but the second one was that even if he doesn't, that she'll have the faith to be obedient to him. And I mean, first of all, that was just astounding to me, and I was like, how can you even pray that? But I could just tell how genuine it was, and how just no matter what she did, she just was so confident in the Lord's provision for her and in the Lord's sovereignty over what she was going through. And everything that she said, it actually felt like she genuinely believed it.
Jana, I love you so much, Jana. I don't know what the Lord has. You know, I don't know. I know you don't know either. I'm really sad that things have to work out the way they do. I'm really sad that you have to go back to South Africa to get your scans. I'm gonna miss you so much. I'm gonna miss you so much. Good thing I'm seeing you in a few months, but the Lord has just used you in so many ways, and I've heard so many stories from you and from others of just how God has used you to minister to others, including myself. That's just irreplaceable.
Jana, I have not known you for as long as I would like. It's only been a few months, but you are one of the most incredible people I've ever met, and your character has taught me so much. You've taught me that I need to put my hope and trust in the Lord and to not value things in this world and to look forward to eternity. And you have just impacted me in ways that I never thought a person could impact me, and you've taught me so much, and I'm gonna miss you so much when you leave, but you are just one of the most incredible people, and just seeing your beautiful and genuine and raw faith and just love for others and love for the Lord has just, it's impacted me so much. So I'm so thankful for you, and I love you so much, and I can't wait to see you soon, and I'm looking forward to when we can spend eternity in heaven together.
Oh man. Oh, Jana. I really hope I'm saying your name right. Please don't boggle down on me. Yeah, Jana, I see you as this, like I said, I see you as this beacon of hope. I know we haven't had a lot of like conversations with each other, but just from what I see when you interact with all of our teammates and people at Biola, I can just see like the joy that you bring them and just the welcoming like comfort that you just pour out to them, and just be, just to be a friend. And I really just admire that of you. I admire those qualities of you, Jana, and I just want you to know that while you're away, that we'll all be thinking about you. I'll be thinking about you and praying for you, because I know this is a tough part of your life that you'll have to go through again, but you're very strong in your faith, and I know that God will always be watching you, and just to, never lose that hope, Jana, because, like I said, you're a beacon of hope to all of us, and we really appreciate having you in our lives, and we think every moment that, we spent with you, and so just thank you for being that beacon of hope and light, and I hope you know that we'll miss you deeply.
Jana, I think you're one of the most impactful people I've ever met, by a long shot. I wish that I could talk the way that you do, and I could have the faith that just proclaims out of me the way that your faith does. And I just want to encourage you that it's okay to be sad, because people will mourn with you, and it's okay to rejoice because I'll rejoice with you as well. I love you a lot. Gosh, just please come back very soon.
Jana, I just want to thank you for being such a light to everybody around you. It's so clear that the Lord is so active and present in your life, and I have no doubt that whatever this second diagnosis holds, whatever this journey holds with cancer, that He will continue to be glorified through you. And I think that says so much more about you and your character than anything else about you. And everybody around you feels so blessed to know you and call you a friend. So yeah, we're gonna miss you when you go home, but we hope to see you back soon, healthy and here with us for a long time. But above all else, it's just the biggest blessing in the world to know you and see Christ glorified through you.
Jana, I love you. I miss you. Next time I see you, you better be in a bridesmaid dress on my wedding day. And I'm praying for you a lot.
Jesus better save, my friend. Jesus better save.
Anyone listening to this right now? We should get coffee next fall. Put it in my bucket list.
Bucket list.
I survived this, and then I'll get coffee with whoever's watching this right now. That'd be awesome.
I am recording right now.
I might not have my arm on me though.
Oh my gosh. Alright, look at that cross.
I'm always looking at the cross. The world is behind me. The cross is before me.